Welcome. This is Topic Inner Clarity.
Hello and welcome.
Usually when we start these deep dives, I'm sort of bouncing off the walls. We're usually dissecting the latest AI breakthrough or looking at geopolitical shifts, trying to figure out the future of energy.
Right. It's very forward-looking, very fast.
It is. It's always fast.
Yeah.
But today feels different. The stack of research we have on the table isn't about looking forward, at least not in the traditional sense. It's about looking backward and inward.
It is. And because of that, I think we need to set a different tone right from the start. The research we're covering today, drawing from Carl Jung, from modern neuroscience, from somatic psychology, it's heavy.
It's definitely heavy.
But it's also incredibly delicate. We are talking about the past, specifically how the past lives in us and how we heal from it.
It's a topic that touches everyone, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, whether you feel like you have big T trauma or just the garden variety scars of growing up, we all have a past that influences our present. So for the next hour or so, we're going to slow things down. We want to be soft, deep, and clear. We're going to explore the concept of the shadow, the reality of the inner child, why your body holds on to memories even when your mind wants to let go.
And crucially, practical, actionable methods for rewriting your life's narrative.
Exactly. Our mission today is to move from a place of confusion, where we feel, haunted or controlled by our history, to a place of clarity and integration.
And we're looking at this through the lens of Carl Jung, the Swiss psychiatrist who really mapped the geography of the soul. But we're grounding his sometimes mystical ideas in hard, cold neuroscience.
So if you're driving, maybe turn the volume up just a little so you don't miss the nuance. If you're at home, get comfortable. Let's start at the very beginning, the foundation.
Oh, you have to.
We need to define what we are actually talking about, the nature of the wound.
The nature of the wound. It's a poetic way to put it, but medically and psychologically, we are talking about trauma.
And this is where I hit my first stumbling block in the research. For the longest time, I thought trauma meant a specific list of catastrophic events. A war zone, a terrible car crash, a physical assault, the big events.
Yeah, that's the common understanding.
But reading through the work of Dr. Gabor Mate and Mel Robbins, that definition seems incomplete.
Yeah.
Or maybe just outdated.
It is shifting, definitely. And this is really the most critical distinction to make if we want to understand healing. The research from Gabor Mate is very, very specific on this point. He argues that trauma is not the bad things that happen to you.
Which sounds counterintuitive. If I get in a car crash, that's the trauma.
No. In this framework, the car crash is the event. It's the stressor. Trauma is what happens inside of you as a result of that event.
Okay.
It is the internal residue. It's the scar tissue that forms around the wound, not the weapon that caused it.
I have to be honest, though, that definition feels a little slippery to me at first. If we say trauma isn't the event, are we minimizing the event? Like, if someone went through something horrific, aren't we letting the bad thing or the perpetrator off the hook by focusing entirely on the internal reaction?
That is a very valid pushback, and it's one that comes up often. But think about it this way. Two people can go through the exact same difficult event.
Okay.
One person might process it, grieve, supported by a loving community, and move forward without lasting scars. The other person might be alone, unable to process it, and their nervous system freezes. The event was the same, but the trauma, the long-term physiological change, only occurred in the second person.
I see. So calling it residue isn't minimizing it. It's actually empowering.
Right.
Because if the trauma was the event itself, I can't change it.
You can't.
I can't go back in time and stop the car crash. It's done. It's history. But if trauma is what is happening inside my body right now.
Exactly. If trauma is the residue, the brace, the flinch that lives in your nervous system today, then you have agency. You can work with what is inside you.
Right.
Mel Robbins uses the analogy of a recording. The event is the live performance, but trauma is the recording that keeps playing on a loop in your nervous system.
Wow.
The teacher who yelled at you 20 years ago is gone. They might even be dead. But your body is still reacting to that yell today.
It's a paradigm shift.
Yeah.
It means that the past isn't actually in the past. It's playing out in the present day-to-day life.
And that brings us to the core of the damage. Mate says the essence of trauma is a loss of connection to oneself. When the pain is too great, the only way a child can survive is to disconnect, to numb out.
So the tragedy isn't just the pain.
No, the tragedy is that you had to abandon yourself to survive the pain.
That is a heavy thought. That we leave ourselves behind. And this connects directly to Carl Jung. I was reading through the source material, Jung's perspective, and he uses a term that sounds like it belongs in a physics textbook or a sci-fi novel. It talks about the autonomous complex.
The autonomous complex, yes. It's one of Jung's most brilliant and, frankly, frightening contributions.
Can we unpack that? Because complex is a word we use casually. Oh, he had a complex about his height. But Jung meant something very specific, didn't he?
He did. A whole other level. Jung believed that the psyche isn't a solid block. It's more like a solar system.
Yeah.
When you have a traumatic experience that you cannot digest, something too heavy for your conscious mind to hold, it doesn't just dissolve.
It breaks off.
It fragments off. It forms a little moon that orbits your personality.
A splinter personality.
Yes. But here is where the word autonomous comes in. This splinter isn't dead matter. It has its own energy. It has its own will.
Its own will.
Jung described it almost like a silent virus or a government within a government. It sits in the unconscious, waiting.
Waiting for what?
Waiting for a trigger, a reminder of the original wound. And when it gets triggered, it hijacks the conscious mind.
I think everyone listening has felt this, even if they didn't have the language for it. It's that feeling of being on autopilot. Let's say you're at work. It's a Tuesday. Your boss sends you an email that is slightly critical. Maybe they just say, hey, can we redo this slide? A normal adult reaction would be, sure, I'll fix it.
Right. That's the adult ego responding.
But instead, your heart starts hammering against your ribs. Your palms get sweaty. You feel this wave of absolute heat in your face.
Yes.
You either want to flip the desk over or curl up under it and cry. And you're sitting there thinking, why am I reacting like this? It's just a slide.
That is the autonomous complex taking the wheel. You are no longer interacting with your boss in 2024. You have been hijacked by the inferiority complex or the father complex that was formed when you were 6 years old.
So it's not me.
The complex has flooded your system with the emotions of that 6-year-old. You are literally possessed by the past.
Possessed is a strong word, but it fits. It feels like something else is driving the car. And this leads to what the research calls identification with the victim. This is the trap, right?
It is the ultimate trap. If you live with these complexes long enough, if you live with that pain long enough, your ego, your sense of I, starts to mold itself around the wound.
It's like a tree growing around a fence wire.
Exactly. You start to believe, I am the person who is always abandoned, or I am the person who is broken. You identify with the victimhood. And the terrifying part, which Jung pointed out, is that we often cling to that identity.
Why would we cling to suffering? That doesn't make sense logically.
Because the ego hates uncertainty more than it hates pain. If I am the victim, I know who I am. I have a role. I have a script.
Okay.
If I heal, if I let that go, who am I? The void of the unknown is often scarier to us than the familiar misery.
It's the devil you know versus the devil you don't. But that's terrifying, isn't it? The idea that I might actually prefer my misery because it's familiar.
It's horrifying, but realizing it is the first step to breaking out. You have to see the prison bars before you can start sawing through them.
A lot of those bars.
A lot of those bars are made of what Jung called the shadow.
Okay, let's go there. This actually bleeds right into one of the most misunderstood concepts in psychology. We've talked about the wound, but we have to talk about where we hide it. We need to talk about the shadow. In pop culture, movies, video games, the shadow is always the evil side. It's the serial killer lurking inside the nice neighbor. But the research suggests it is much more nuanced than that.
It is much more nuanced and much more hopeful, actually. The shadow, by definition, is simply the not I. It is everything in yourself that you have rejected, denied, or suppressed.
So it's the basement of the psyche.
It's the base. Think about a child. When we are born, we are whole. We are 360 degrees of human possibility. We are loud, we are quiet, we are angry, we are joyful, we are generous, we are selfish. We are everything.
But then life happens.
Civilization happens. Parenting happens. To survive, to fit in, to get love from our caregivers, we have to start chopping off parts of ourselves. If you grow up in a home where anger is not allowed, where nice children don't yell, you take your anger, which is a natural human emotion, and you shove it into the shadow bag.
You repress it.
You repress it. But, and this is the part people miss, we don't just repress negative traits.
We don't?
We repress positive ones, too.
Wait, we repress good stuff. Why would we hide the good stuff?
Because it might not have been safe to show it. Imagine a little boy who is naturally sensitive, artistic, and soft-spoken, but he grows up in a family or a culture that says, real men are tough. Real men don't cry. Real men play football.
He learns pretty quickly that his sensitivity is a liability. It's a target.
Exactly. So he takes that beautiful sensitivity, that creativity, and he shoves it into the shadow. He puts on a mask of toughness. 30 years later, he feels empty and he doesn't know why.
Wow.
It's because his gold, his creativity is locked in the basement along with his fear.
That is fascinating. So the shadow isn't just a dungeon of monsters, it's a treasure chest that we locked and lost the key to. But keeping that lid on, that has a cost, doesn't it?
The cost is immense. It is an energy drain. I love the analogy of the beach ball underwater.
Oh, yeah.
Imagine trying to hold a fully inflated beach ball under the surface of a swimming pool.
It takes constant active pressure. Your muscles are burning.
You can do it for a minute, maybe 10, but try doing it for 20 years. That is what your psyche is doing with the shadow. It requires a massive amount of psychic energy just to keep those parts of yourself hidden. It leaves you exhausted, anxious, and depleted.
And eventually your arms get tired.
Yeah.
And that ball shoots up, usually at the worst possible time.
And when it shoots up, it often comes out as projection. This is another massive Jungian concept that explains so much about our social lives.
Projection. This is the idea that the world is a mirror.
Yes. The unconscious mind cannot see itself directly. It's like your physical eye. You can't see your own eye unless you look in a mirror. The psyche projects its content onto the screen of the world.
Okay.
So, if you have repressed your own anger, if you believe you are a nice person who never gets mad, you will likely be hypersensitive to anger in others.
You'll see it everywhere. Every comment feels like an attack.
You will see everyone else as rude, attacking, or hostile. You project your own hidden aggression onto them.
So the things that trigger us most in other people, those are actually clues.
They are the best clues we have. If you have a visceral, over-the-top reaction to someone like, you just hate them and you don't know why, or you find them impossibly arrogant, it is almost always because they are acting out a part of your shadow.
They're pushing a button I didn't even know I had.
They are doing something you have forbidden yourself to do.
It's a tough pill to swallow. It means if I think everyone around me is a jerk.
You might need to look at your own repressed rudeness or your own repressed need to take up space.
It means relationships are basically mirrors. If a pattern repeats, like if you're always dating the same toxic type of person or you always feel disrespected by every boss you've ever had, Jung would say that isn't bad luck.
No, Jung would say that is your unconscious begging to be seen. You are attracting these people or interpreting them this way because your shadow is trying to externalize itself so you can finally face it.
The external world is showing you your internal map.
Precisely.
So the world isn't happening to you, it's reflecting you. That pivots us perfectly.
Yeah.
We have talked about the mind, the shadow, the psychology of it all, but we are missing a huge piece of the puzzle. We have to talk about the vessel where all of this lives.
The body.
The body. Section 3 of our deep dive focuses on the seminal work of Bessel van der Kolk. The body keeps the score.
We cannot talk about healing without talking about Van der Kolk. For a long time, the Western model of mental health was very neck up.
Yeah.
If you feel bad, it's a brain chemistry issue or a logic issue.
Right. You either take a pill to change the chemistry or you do talk therapy to change the logic.
Right.
Prozac and analysis. That was the model.
And those have their place, absolutely. We aren't dismissing them. But Van der Kolk's research showed that for deep trauma, neck-up therapies often hit a wall. He did the early studies on Prozac and Zoloft for PTSD in the 80s and 90s.
Okay.
And the results were underwhelming.
They didn't fix it.
They dampened the symptoms, they made people less volatile, but they didn't solve the core issue. The trauma was still there. And talk therapy had the same limit.
How so?
You can talk about your trauma for 10 years, you can understand why it happened, you can blame your mother perfectly, and you can still have a panic attack every time a door slams.
Why is that? Why doesn't understanding it fix it?
Because trauma doesn't live in the logic centers of the brain. Van der Kolk showed this with brain scans. When a person is triggered, when they are flashed back to their trauma, the prefrontal cortex actually shuts down.
That's the part of the brain responsible for reason, time, and language.
Gone. Offline. At the same time, the amygdala, the smoke detector, the survival brain, lights up like a Christmas tree. So when you are in a trauma response, you literally cannot think your way out of it. You are not in a thinking state. You are in a survival state.
So telling someone in a trauma response to just calm down or think logically.
It's physiologically impossible. It is like telling a person whose house is on fire to sit down and plan the redecorating of the living room.
Right.
You have to put the fire out first, and the fire is in the body.
This explains why just talking isn't enough. You can't reason with a body that feels unsafe.
Right.
So what do? The research points to somatic modalities.
Yeah.
Body-based therapies.
Exactly.
One of the big ones mentioned is EMDR, eye movement desensitization and reprocessing.
Yeah.
Now, I've heard of this, and I've got to say, it sounds bizarre.
It does.
You sit with a therapist, and they wave their fingers back and forth in front of your face, and you follow them with your eyes while thinking about the worst day of your life.
Yeah.
It sounds like a parlor trick.
It does sound strange, and Vanderkolk admitted he thought it was nonsense at first, too. But the results were undeniable. The theory is that it mimics REM sleep rapid eye movement.
The sleep phase where we dream.
Exactly. REM sleep is the brain's digestion system. It's where we take the day's events and file them away. Okay, I went to the store, I saw a dog, I cooked dinner. It processes memory from short-term to long-term.
And trauma is?
Trauma is essentially a memory that got stuck. It was too big to digest, so it stayed in the present danger folder instead of moving to the past event folder.
So the eye movements, they manually crank the engine. They force the filing process.
Essentially. By moving the eyes bilaterally, you are stimulating the brain to process the information across hemispheres. It allows the brain to finally take that stuck memory and file it.
So what do the people say after they do it?
People report that after EMDR, the memory is still there. They don't get amnesia, but the heat is gone. The emotional charge is gone.
It becomes just a story rather than a reliving.
Exactly. It moves from I am dying right now to that was a terrible thing that happened back then.
He also talks about yoga, but not, fitness yoga or get a tight butt yoga. It's a different kind.
No, this is about interoception. That's a key word. Interoception is the ability to feel your internal state, to feel your heartbeat, to feel your stomach churn.
Why is that important for trauma?
Because trauma makes the body feel like a crime scene. Survivors often dissociate, they numb out, they leave their bodies because it is too painful to be in their skin.
I see.
If you ask a trauma survivor, how does your chest feel right now? They often say, I don't know, or I feel nothing.
So yoga in this context is a way to safely move back in.
It's a way to befriend the body again, to learn that it is safe to feel a stretch in your hamstrings, safe to feel your breath expand your ribs. It's reclaiming the territory that was occupied by the enemy.
And then there's the theater aspect, the Shakespeare program. I found this one so surprising.
Me too. It's fascinating.
They took juvenile delinquents kids with massive trauma histories, violent offenders, and had them perform Shakespeare.
I love the study. Think about the posture of trauma. It's collapsed, it's defensive, shoulders up, head down, invisible.
Or it's aggressive.
Or it's aggressive, chest puffed out, ready to fight. Trauma locks you into a very narrow set of physical roles, the victim or the bully.
And acting breaks that lock.
Acting forces you to physically inhabit a different reality. If you are playing a king in a Shakespeare play, you have to stand like a king. You have to breathe like a king. You have to speak with authority.
We get to roar like a warrior.
And your body learns something profound. It learns, oh, I am capable of feeling powerful without being violent. I am capable of taking up space without being hurt.
It's building new muscle memory.
It expands the repertoire of what is possible for you physically and emotionally. It creates a new neural pathway for confidence that isn't based on survival.
Precisely. So we have the concept of the shadow, psychological software. We have the role of the body, the hardware. Now let's get practical. How do we actually do the work?
Yes.
We can't all go join a Shakespeare troupe tomorrow?
Yes.
Section 4. The method of integration.
Right. How do we heal? The research points to a phased approach. You can't just dive into the deep end of the shadow without learning how to swim first.
Makes sense.
The first phase is what Dr. Gabor Mate calls compassionate inquiry.
I love this shift in language. It sounds simple, but it's radical. Usually when we get triggered, let's say I snap at my partner because the dishes aren't done.
Yeah.
The internal monologue is immediate judgment.
The inner critic turns on, why are you so angry? You're such a jerk. Why can't you just be chill? You're ruining everything.
We beat ourselves up instantly.
And that judgment shuts down the learning. You can't learn from a mistake if you are busy whipping yourself for it. Mate suggests replacing judgment with curiosity.
Curiosity.
When the trigger happens, instead of, I'm so stupid, you pause just for a second and ask, I wonder why I reacted that way.
A wonder. That is such a gentle phrase. It's like opening a door instead of slamming it.
It creates space. It acknowledges that the trigger isn't a weapon you are using to be bad. It is a signal. Mate says a trigger is just the inner child saying, ouch.
That changes the whole dynamic. If a child says, ouch, you don't yell at them for hurting. You check the wound. But There is a massive barrier to this curiosity, isn't there?
There is.
I think for a lot of us, we want to be curious, but something stops us. And that something is shame.
Shame is the gatekeeper. There is a great insight from the source material, specifically therapy in a nutshell, that describes shame as black mold.
That's a visceral image.
It's perfect, though. Black mold thrives in the dark. It grows when there is no ventilation. It creates a toxic environment. Shame works the same way.
Okay.
It tells you, hide this. Don't let anyone see that you were jealous. Don't let anyone know you were scared. If they see the real you, they will leave.
So if I snap at my partner, shame says, pretend it didn't happen. Defend yourself. Gaslight them. Do anything but admit you were wrong, because being wrong means you were bad.
And that just lets the mold grow. The only way to kill black mold is to expose it to light and air. The antidote to shame is connection and confession.
Bringing it into the light.
Saying, hey, I just snapped at you. I'm feeling really ashamed about that reaction. I think I was actually feeling scared because you were late. That sentence kills the mold immediately. It breaks the secrecy.
Once we can look at ourselves with some compassion, we can move to phase 2. Shadow work. We talked about what the shadow is, but how do we actually integrate it? Jung gives us a specific process.
He does. And it's not for the faint of heart. The first step is recognition. This is the hardest part. It is admitting that the ugly traits exist. Admitting, yes, I am jealous. Yes, I am manipulative sometimes. Yes, I have a cruel streak.
That requires a pretty strong ego, doesn't it? You have to be strong enough to admit you aren't perfect without collapsing into self-hatred.
Correct. You have to stand your ground and look the monster in the eye. But then comes the second step, listening.
Listening to it.
You treat the shadow trait not like a monster to be slain, but like a messenger. Why is the jealousy there? What does it want?
I see.
Usually the shadow is trying to protect you or get a valid need met, but it's using a clumsy, outdated method.
So the jealousy might be saying, I want to feel important. I want to feel seen.
Yes, the need is valid. I want to be seen is a human need. The strategy tearing down your friend who just got a promotion is the problem.
So you separate the need from the behavior.
Which leads to step 3, negotiation. This is where the integration happens. You make a treaty with the shadow.
A treaty, I like that. It's not a surrender. It's not a fight.
No, you don't let the shadow drive the car. You don't let the jealousy burn down your friendships. But you might say, okay, shadow, I hear you. You need to feel important. We aren't going to insult our friend, but we are going to sign up for that art class we've been putting off. We are going to do something constructive that makes us feel proud.
You give the energy a healthy outlet. You let the shadow choose the music on the radio, but you keep your hands on the steering wheel.
That is the perfect analogy. You stop fighting the energy and start steering it.
Now, phase 3 is where we get into what I call time travel. This comes from the Shonimoto source. It is a visualization exercise for reparenting. Now, I want to get specific here because this feels like something listeners can actually try.
This is powerful stuff. We talked about how the trauma is a frozen memory, a scene where you felt helpless.
Right.
In this exercise, you go back to that scene in your mind, but you don't go back as the child. You go back as your current adult self.
Okay, walk me through this.
Yeah.
Let's say I'm imagining the classroom where the teacher humiliated me. I see little 6-year-old me sitting there, terrified, everyone laughing.
You see him, but then you visualize adult you, the you of today, who is capable and strong walking into that classroom. You open the door, you walk right up to the teacher.
And I tell them to back off.
You intervene, you stop the abuse, you tell the teacher, don't you dare speak to him like that. You stand between the child and the threat. And then you turn to the child. You pick him up, you look him in the eye and say, I've got you. You're safe now. I'm taking you out of here. And you visualize walking out of that room with the child.
It sounds like
Yeah.
just imagination, like I'm making up a story. Does that actually do anything?
To the brain, imagination and reality are surprisingly similar. When you visualize this deeply with emotion, you are creating a new neural pathway. You are literally rewriting the ending of the story.
So the memory changes.
The memory shifts from I was alone and helpless to I was rescued and I am safe.
You are becoming the parent you needed back then.
You are rescuing yourself.
But we should warn listeners, this isn't a magic wand. You don't do it once and you're cured. It takes repetition.
It does. There's that great story with the reverse bicycle.
Oh, right. Destin from Smarter Every Day on YouTube, he built a bike where the handlebars were geared backward.
Right. If you turn the bars left, the wheel goes right.
And he tried to ride it. He knew intellectually how it worked. Turn left to go right. Simple physics. But he couldn't do it.
He kept falling over. His brain was so hardwired for a normal bicycle that he physically couldn't override the instinct.
Right.
It took him 8 months of practicing every single day to ride that bike. Healing is the reverse bicycle. You might know intellectually that you are safe or that your partner isn't your dad, but your brain wiring is deep. You will fall.
You will revert to old patterns.
You will. That doesn't mean you're failing. It means you're relearning to ride.
Patience is part of the prescription.
Absolutely.
That leads us to section 5. Rewriting the narrative. Because ultimately, we are storytelling creatures. We live by the scripts written in our childhood.
Jung called this personal mythology. We all have a myth we are living out. Maybe your myth is the orphan, always looking for a home but never finding it. Or the martyr, always sacrificing for others and getting nothing in return.
Trauma tends to lock us into a tragedy script. Bad things happen to me and I can't stop them.
So the work is to edit the script. And it starts with reframing the core question. Instead of asking, why is this happening to me? Which is the victim stance.
Right.
Jung challenges us to ask a much harder question. Who am I that this should happen to me?
Who am I that this should happen to me? That is dense. Unpack that.
It sounds like victim blaming, but it's actually the opposite. It's about destiny. It means viewing your life not as a series of random accidents, but as a curriculum.
A curriculum.
If this struggle is in my life, it must be because I have the capacity to transmute it. It shifts the genre from tragedy to the hero's journey.
The obstacle isn't a stop sign. It is the dragon that guards the gold.
Exactly. The dragon is there because you are the knight, not because the universe hates you.
And part of that journey involves forgiveness. But we have to be incredibly careful with that word, don't we?
Okay.
I feel like forgiveness is often weaponized.
It is. There is a lot of toxic forgiveness out there. People telling you to just let it go, be the bigger person, forgive your abuser.
The Theo Vaughn clip in our research touched on this. He was talking about how you can't force forgiveness. And I want to ask, what if the person who hurt you was a monster? What if they don't deserve forgiveness? Do you have to forgive them to heal?
No, you don't have to forgive them for them, and you certainly don't have to reconcile with them. The research suggests that you cannot forgive what you haven't grieved.
You have to feel it first.
You have to validate the anger first. You have to feel the magnitude of the loss.
So anger is a necessary step.
Anger is the boundary that says, this was wrong. If you skip the anger and jump straight for forgiveness, you are just bypassing the pain. Forgiveness is not a method you use to heal. Forgiveness is the result of healing.
That is such a relief to hear. So you don't wake up and decide to forgive. You do the work, you process the anger, you build your safety, and then one day you might realize the anger has just evaporated.
It has.
Not because they deserve it, but because you don't need it anymore.
Exactly. It falls away like a stab when the skin underneath is healed. You forgive to free yourself, not to absolve them.
There is also this idea from Jordan Peterson about meaning-making and a philosophy of malevolence. This seems important for people who have been truly victimized by bad actors.
It is crucial. If you were hurt by someone truly malevolent, a sociopath, a cruel parent, you can't just be naive and say everyone is good deep down. That leaves you vulnerable.
That's dangerous.
You need to understand that malevolence exists. You need to map it.
So you study the map of the dungeon so you don't fall into the same hole again.
Yes. It is about moving from being a naive victim to being an aware survivor. You understand why bad things happen so you can navigate the world with open eyes. It gives you a sense of agency. You aren't just a leaf blowing in the wind of chaos. You are a cartographer of the darkness.
Let's move to the final stage. Section 6. Transcendence. This is where we go beyond just fixing the problem, getting back to normal, and move into something bigger, a spiritual dimension.
This is where we look at Eckhart Tolle's work alongside Jung. Tolle talks about disidentification. The idea is to stop identifying with the pain body.
This goes back to language again. We say, I am angry, I am sad. The I is fused with the emotion.
Right. Tolle suggests a tiny shift. Say, I sense anger arising. Or, there's a strong feeling of anger in my chest.
You become the space around the pain rather than the pain itself.
It creates a buffer zone. It allows you to watch the storm without drowning in it. You are the sky. The anger is just the cloud passing through.
And when you do this, when you heal the internal split, when you integrate the shadow, Jung says something magical happens.
Synchronicity.
Synchronicity.
Yeah.
It's those meaningful coincidences that seem statistically impossible.
Like thinking of someone and they call you.
or stumbling upon the exact book you need at the thrift store. But in the context of trauma healing, it means that as you change your internal frequency, your external reality shifts.
Okay.
We talk about how we project our shadow onto the world. Well, when you integrate the shadow, you stop projecting.
The mirror changes. You stop attracting the same toxic partners because you no longer have the hook in you that catches them. You stop ending up in abusive work environments because you now radiate a different boundary.
You've changed the magnet inside you.
You are no longer broadcasting the signal that attracts those things. And this brings us to the beautiful image of kintsugi. I think this is the perfect image to close on.
Kintsugi, the Japanese art of repairing broken pottery.
Yes. If a bowl breaks in Japan, traditional craftsmen don't throw it away. And they don't try to glue it back together so it looks new. They glue it back together using lacquer mixed with powdered gold.
So the cracks are visible. They are highlighted.
They are the most beautiful part of the piece. The bowl is now more valuable because it has been broken and repaired. It has a history.
The wound is where the light enters.
In Jungian terms, the shadow holds your gold. The person who has traversed their trauma, who has faced their darkness and integrated it, has a depth, a wisdom, and a strength that the innocent person simply does not have. You have earned your gold.
You become whole rather than just good.
And wholeness is the goal, not perfection. Wholeness.
So let's bring this all together. We have covered a massive amount of ground today. We started by redefining trauma, not as the car crash, but as the disconnect from the self. We look at the shadow, the basement where we hide our parts, and how it hijacks us through the autonomous complex.
We talked about the body, how we have to move, breathe, and act out our healing because the rational brain goes offline when we are triggered.
And we discussed the methods, compassion to inquiry, the difficult work of shadow negotiation, and the visualization of reparenting the inner child.
And finally, we looked at rewriting the narrative, moving from victim to hero, and the idea that our scars, filled with gold, are actually our greatest assets.
The core message here is that you are not what happened to you.
You are what you choose to become. But becoming that person isn't about cutting off the past. It is about inviting it to the table, listening to it, and integrating it.
It is a journey from being fragmented to being whole. And it is probably the most important work any of us can do.
Absolutely. Because when you heal yourself, you don't just help yourself. You stop the transmission of trauma to the next generation. You change the atmosphere around you. You break the chain.
We hope this deep dive has given you some tools or at least a new map for that territory. If you want to keep exploring these ideas with us, please join us for the next deep dive on Tapakia Inner Clarity. We are going to keep peeling back the layers.
And we want to leave you with one question to walk away with today. It is a question from the shadow.
What part of your shadow is waiting to be invited to the table?
Think about it. And be kind to yourself while you do.
Thanks for listening. We will see you next time.